Okay.
Okay? We are in Davos at the World Economic Forum. And the Trump administration and myself, we are here to make a very clear point. Globalization has failed the West and the United States of America. It's a failed policy. It is what the WEF has stood for, which is export, offshore, far shore, find the cheapest labor in the world, and the world is a better place for it. The fact is, it has left America behind. It has left the American workers behind. And what we are here to say is that America First is a different model, one that we encourage other countries to consider, which is that our workers come first. We can have policies that impact our workers. Sovereignty is your borders. You're entitled to have borders. You shouldn't offshore your medicine. You shouldn't offshore your semiconductors. You shouldn't offshore your entire industrial base and have it be hollowed out beneath you. You should not be dependent for that which is fundamental to your sovereignty on any other nation. And if you're going to be dependent on someone, it darn well better be your best allies. Okay? And so that is a different way of thinking. It is completely different than the WEF. I viewed the WEF as not a flagpole in the middle, but in fact, they are the flag. Whichever way the wind blew, so it blew. You should have solar, you should have wind. Why are you going to do solar and wind? Why would Europe agree to be net zero in 2030 when they don't make a battery? They don't make a battery. So if they go 2030, they are deciding to be subservient to China, who makes the batteries.
Hey, welcome into Courageous Media. Really appreciate everybody rolling up today. Thanks so much for being here. We have got fireworks in Switzerland. This is absolutely awesome. So that was Howard Lutnick yesterday at the WEF at Davos, basically torching the entire globalist architecture, telling him it's dead. Done. America is no longer participating. Globalism is a fraud. Globalism sucks, and we're out. We're not playing anymore. It is now America first. We are going to do what is in America's best interest. And this was Lutnick preparing for the big man who arrived today and spoke at Davos. And Trump was no less dilatory. Trump was absolutely on fire, telling Davos, the WEF, and basically Europeans exactly what he thought of their ridiculous policies. And it was beautiful. So we are going to dive into highlights of Trump's speech, which went on for almost an hour. So we're not going to play the whole speech. Feel free. There are plenty of live streams out there. I highly recommend it. We're going to play some highlights for you, which is just great stuff. I mean, he goes everywhere from the Green New Scam to Canada, and then he finales it in our little clips with Greenland. You're going to love this. So if you're here, please let us know you're here in the comments. Like, comment, and subscribe to Courageous Media. Really appreciate everybody rolling up. So let's dive right in to Trump at Davos. Now, as we do that, Howard Lutnick is 100% correct. Globalism is dead because America is not going to participate. And they frankly can't have the globalist liberal world order, the post-World War II liberal globalist world order without America. America is essentially the center of the Western world. And they can't do it without us. And we are no longer participating because thanks to people like Trump and Lutnick, they are now leading America in a way in which every single working class American has already figured out that globalism sucks for us. Globalism, all globalism was hollowing out of the industrialized Western nations' job bases, manufacturing bases, and wealth bases, and exporting them to third world countries and preparing the way for the collapse of the entire order. That collapse would collapse into a framework that was being built by the elitists at the WEF, at Davos, in the European Union, in the deep state of America. That framework was essentially a new globalist aristocracy, where the haves would always be the haves. They would be born into wealth, power, and privilege. They were the elite. They were your betters. They knew what to do. They were the experts. And what every American working class person knew was that that was a bunch of crap. That most of the elites, most of the experts were frankly educated idiots. They were boneheads who literally knew nothing beyond their little academic exercise area of expertise. They had never done anything. They had never built anything. They had never accomplished anything other than reading in a book and possibly writing a book. But they'd never actually done what they wrote in a book because they wrote all this crap about globalism and climate change and new energy sources, and they never actually accomplished any of it. They didn't understand the engineering of it, the logistics of it, or anything else. It was all an academic exercise. And things in academic exercises may look great, but when you put them in the real world, they frankly don't work worth shit. So we are going to dive into Trump's speech. Check this out. He opens up by basically saying, the global government dream is over. We are no longer participating. He echoes Howard Lutnick's comments. And so before we dive into that, I really appreciate everybody rolling up. Motor Bronx, Netherlands in the house. Trump is right. We need him in Europe too. 100%. I agree with you. Randy Bunch, it's not dead. Trump's just going to do it his way. Digital IDs, currency. No, I don't believe you. I don't think that's right. I think Trump actually wants America first. Now, there may be some differences of opinion on if some of his policies are not America first. I'll give you that. And I think the Trump administration has absolutely botched the whole Epstein nonsense. And so we'll dive into that at a later date. But in terms of globalism, I absolutely believe that globalism is dead, specifically as far as Trump is concerned. Check this out.
Of the apocalypse. They are the heirs of yesterday's foolish fortune tellers, and I have them, and you have them, and we all have them. And they want to see us do badly, but we don't let that happen. They predicted an overpopulation crisis in the 1960s, mass starvation in the 70s, and an end of oil in the 1990s. These alarmists always demand the same thing: absolute power to dominate, transform, and control every aspect of our lives. We will never let radical socialists destroy our economy, wreck our country, or eradicate our liberty. America will always be the proud, strong, and unyielding bastion of freedom. To embrace
and that is exactly what Trump's been doing. Now, again, disagree with him on many things if you want, but the one thing that Trump has absolutely been in his foreign policy, there have been two major staples. One, he wants to end war. He hates war. He hates people dying for no reason. He thinks war is wasteful and stupid, and it's completely true. Now, at the same time, Trump has been reasserting the Monroe Doctrine. Essentially, we will control our hemisphere. And in so doing, we are going to make ourselves independent of the world. We will, for those things that are required for sovereignty, meaning energy, pharmaceuticals, semiconductors, all of these mission critical, national security critical industries, Trump is reshoring, which is why Venezuela was so huge. Because Trump no longer sees Canada really as an ally. They see Canada cozying up to China. He sees Mark Carney's idiotic statements, basically saying that Trump is the new authoritarian leader that we need to stand up against. When in actuality, Mark Carney and his ilk are the communists that people need to stand up to. But that's why Trump has realigned Venezuela. Now, if Alberta declares independence, I could absolutely see America absorbing Alberta, making Alberta the 51st state, making a protectorate. If they just want to go independent, creating all sorts of trade with Alberta, that would be great. But while Canada is skewing away from the United States and is proving that they are not a friend, Trump has essentially realigned Venezuela in the American in our hemisphere, and has realigned it so that we now have access, almost unfettered access, to their trillions of dollars of oil reserves, heavy crude oil reserves that we can ship easily from Venezuela right into the Gulf of Mexico, right into American refineries. We can be 100% energy independent. We can be energy independent in and of ourselves, and then supplement that with Venezuela and potentially Alberta. We can be energy independent from the Middle East, from Europe, from Asia, from all of it. So we no longer need any of that. And he's absolutely right. Globalism is 100% dead. Now, in that vein, he talks about how Europe is failing and that we are not going to go the same way. Check this out.
But it's happened very quickly. This afternoon, I want to discuss how we've achieved this economic miracle, how we intend to raise living standards for our citizens to levels never seen before, and perhaps how you too and the places where you come from can do much better by following what we're doing, because certain places in Europe are not even recognizable, frankly, anymore. They're not recognizable. And we can argue about it, but there's no argument. Friends come back from different places. I don't want to insult anybody, and say, I don't recognize it. And that's not in a positive way. That's in a very negative way. And I love Europe, and I want to see Europe go good, but it's not heading in the right direction.
He's 100% correct. It is not heading in the right direction. I've been there. I have visited some of the places that he is talking about that are unrecognizable than they were just 20 years ago. I can remember my time in Europe, specifically in Paris, from 1999, and then again in 2024. And it is 100% outside of the actual tourist areas, where is still some semblance of what you'd expect, although the clientele is different. Other parts of Paris are unrecognizable to what they were just 25 years ago. It is absolutely amazing, and it is so sad. It is so ridiculous. It was so avoidable. But Europe has signed, the European globalist aristocrat leaders have essentially signed up for this against all of their people's wishes and are destroying the countries right out from underneath them. And Trump is having none of that, which is why we are seeing mass deportations in America, which is why he has essentially shut down immigration. He is the first president in modern history to have a net negative immigration number. He is getting people out of the country, not letting them in. Because until we start assimilating the people who are already here legally and eliminating all of the ones who are here illegally, we cannot take any more in. It's just ridiculous. Now, he goes on to blast Europe for their ridiculous Green New Scam and essentially echoing what Lutnick said, them being 100% dependent on a foreign adversary for their very survival. And this is just great because Trump is not nearly as nice as Lutnick is. He just essentially calls them out right to their face. Check this out.
Windmills all over Europe. There are windmills all over Europe. There are windmills all over the place. And they are losers. One thing is that the more windmills a country has, the more money that country loses and the worse that country is doing. China makes almost all of the windmills. And yet I haven't been able to find any wind farms in China. Did you ever think of that? It's a good way of looking at it.
Oh my gosh, it's so true. Here's Trump talking about the fact that China's the one making all these idiotic things. They don't use them themselves because they know they don't work. They know they're a scam.
They're smart. China's very smart. They make them, they sell them for a fortune. They sell them to the stupid people that buy them. But they don't use them themselves. They put up a couple of big wind farms, but they don't use them. They just put them up to show people what they could look like. They don't spin. They don't do anything. They use a thing called coal, mostly. But China goes with the coal. They go with oil and gas. They're starting to look at nuclear, windmill.
They sell them to the stupid people. I love Trump just looks at the European leaders and says, you are stupid for this. This is nonsense. You want to go, as Letnick said, you want to go 100% electric by 2030, yet you don't make a single battery in Europe. Where are you going to buy these batteries? You're going to have to buy them from your foreign adversary. And then you've got Macron, the ridiculous leader of France, who's married to, Bridget, aka Jean-Michel Trogneau. So you've got him yesterday in his idiotic aviator sunglasses because he has an eye infection. Yeah, right. Basically inviting China to come to France and take their fill. Essentially, do whatever they want in France. Macron is a moron. And as Trump has said, because, Macron has offered to be a part of, what's going on in Gaza. And Trump said, well, yeah, I guess, he could be a part if he wants, but we really don't care. We really don't need him because he's not going to be in power very long. The French people don't even want that fool. So Trump is absolutely right. China's been selling the whole Green New scam to the stupid people. And now he calls out the European leaders, basically says, look, these people aren't willing to look me in the face because without the United States, they don't exist. This is just great stuff. Lynn Sanger in the house. Really appreciate you rolling up. Absolutely. Alberta wants to leave Canada. They are voting. There's a petition. I think they have to get 138,000 signatures. And I don't even know if they might have already surpassed it, but they are absolutely voting to essentially start the dissolution of Canada, which I think would be great for everybody. Here, check this out from Trump.
With that, I don't know, it was so, because she was so aggressive. And I realized in that conversation that the United States is keeping the whole world afloat. Many places, I could give you 6, 7 places just in the people in this little area. I know every one of them. They're looking down. They don't want to see me and they don't want to stare me in the eyes. But they're taking advantage of, everybody took advantage of the United States. But I've been very fair, and I gave them a tariff, and it was fine. But I realized that without us, it's not Switzerland anymore. Without us, it's not any of the countries that are represented here. And we want to work with the countries. We want to work with them. We're not looking to destroy them. With that, I don't
100%. Without America, there is no Europe. They have leached off us for darn near 80 years. Ever since World War II, we put Europe back together with the Marshall Plan and never got paid back. We defended Europe with our own blood, sweat, and treasure. And did we ever hardly get a thank you? No. This has been absolutely egregious, especially in the last 40 years, the way America has been treated. And San Diego, if you've had enough of Trump, let America go. I don't know where you're from, but if America goes away, so goes the West. There is no West without America. All of Europe's, little socialist utopias don't exist if they have to pay for their own defense. They have leached off the American defense industry and the American military ever since World War II. It is America that has kept first the Soviet Union and now Russia in check. It is America that has kept China in check. This idea from some people that the post-World War II globalist liberal world order is what has prevented World War III. That the one thing it was put in place to do was to prevent World War III. And, even if you don't like it, it has accomplished that. No, the post-World War II liberal world order did not prevent World War III. What prevented World War III was America being on the scene. I guarantee you, if America was diminished to the point of being, the UK, or let's call it Australia, because it's as big as Australia, but if we were diminished to the point of having the military and economy of Australia, the West would have ended a long time ago. The Soviet Union would have absorbed it. It would have been gone. China would have absorbed it starting 20 years ago. The only reason there hasn't been World War III is because of American military might and the idea of MAD, mutually assured destruction. All of the wars have percolated to a point and then no further, because people realize in their sanity that if you unleash the whole of China, Russia, and America's militaries, the world is over. Shout out to Resnap in the house. Thanks so much for being here. Really appreciate you rolling up. Shout out, shout out to Lynn. Yeah, she's up in Minnesota, I believe. Oh, Sandy Hagee. There's a battery factory in Germany. Yeah, one battery factory ain't going to cut it. They still buy all of their batteries and all their lithium from China. It's just absolutely egregious. Now, so Trump goes from there and essentially rips Canada. This is beautiful. This is absolutely amazing because Trump just backhands Mark Carney right through this. And it's so true. Again, Canada does not exist without America. Here we go.
We're building a golden dome that's going to, just by its very nature, going to be defending Canada. Canada gets a lot of freebies from us, by the way. They should be grateful also, but they're not. I watched your prime minister yesterday. He wasn't so grateful. But they should be grateful to us. Canada lives because of the United States. Remember that, Mark, the next time you make your statements. What we did for Israel was amazing, but that's nothing compared to what we have planned for the United States, Canada, and the rest of the world. We are going to build a dome like no other. We did it for Israel. And by the way, I told Bibi, stop taking credit for the dome. That's our technology. That's our stuff.
So there you got Trump basically calling out everybody, including, for those of you who think he's somehow controlled, Bibi Netanyahu. So I love what Trump is doing at Davos. Let's burn down the post-World War II globalist world order, which is a bunch of crap. Because it was all designed to hollow out first America and then the West, ship all of our jobs, wealth, and treasure to the third world, which would never, ever actually accomplish anything because they don't have the governmental structures or the cultural, religious, moral background to make it work. A country here and there do, but as a vast whole, no. And so now you've got Trump basically saying enough's enough. We're going back to not isolationism. We're going back to America first, not America alone, but America first. And if that means that you guys don't want to participate, fine, you go your own way. But we're doing America first. And if you want to come along with us, as Letnick said, we highly recommend that all other nations do this. Put your nation first, and then based on common interest, then we can get together. But we're not playing this globalist world order where we ship everything out of our country anymore. And he goes from there, and his finale at this speech is essentially Greenland is ours. It needs to be ours. And this is just absolute classic Trump. Check this out.
In 2019, Denmark said that they would spend over $200 million to strengthen Greenland's defenses. But as you know, they spent less than 1% of that amount. 1%, there's no sign of Denmark there.
Now, this is important, realize, because as a signatory of the NATO Treaty Alliance, one of the stipulations is you must be able to guard your own territory. That is one of the stipulations. You have to spend the money and you have to demonstrate the ability to guard your own territory. Denmark cannot in any way, shape, or form guard Greenland. They cannot do it. They don't have the defense budget. Even if they spend 5% of their GDP, they do not have the ability to guard Greenland. They do not have the military manpower. They do not have the Navy. They do not have the military technology. Even they could buy all the technology from America, but they still do not have the manpower or the Navy to be able to guard Greenland. They are technically in violation of their NATO treaty obligations, which is one of the things that Trump has been talking about is negotiation. You can't do it. You promised to spend $200 million, which is not even close to what it takes to secure Greenland against the threats of Russia and China. It's not even close. You need 100 times that. But even then, they didn't even spend the $200 million. They spent $2. Again, they are in violation of their NATO treaty obligations. Let's keep going.
And I say that with great respect for Denmark, whose people I love, whose leaders are very good. It's the United States alone that can protect this giant mass of land, this giant piece of ice, develop it and improve it and make it so that it's good for Europe and safe for Europe and good for us. And that's the reason I'm seeking immediate negotiations to once again discuss the acquisition of Greenland by the United States, just as we have acquired many other territories throughout our history, as many of the European nations have. They've acquired. There's nothing wrong with it. Many of them, some went in reverse, actually, if you look. Some had great, vast wealth, great, vast lands all over the world. They went in reverse. They're stuck back where they started. That happens too. But some grow. But this would not be a threat to NATO. This would greatly enhance the security of the entire alliance.
100%. So this is not a Trump, and even Trump later on in his speech said, look, we're not going to take it by force. It's ridiculous. I think everybody knows that. But what this could spark is an absolute all-out economic strong-arm war, where Trump essentially says, I'll burn everything else to the ground. He could, because he's already announced 10% tariffs starting in February. That goes to 25%, I believe, in June. He could up that. He could up that to 100%. He could so put the screws to Europe in this trade war that they have no choice. What are they going to do? Okay, they can buy a bunch of stuff from China. Okay, they can start importing a bunch of stuff from China. But what China does not have and will never get is the consumer market of the United States. The United States' ultimate trump card is we are the consumer economy. We buy and consume 40%, almost 40, I think it's 38 or 39, but basically 40% of the global consumption is the United States. Nobody else matches that. China is not a consumer economy. They never have been. And they're not going to flip overnight, especially since the demographics in China are already on the wrong side. China is already a failing state. They just don't know it. They probably know it. It just hasn't been manifested yet. Because they've been less than replacement population growth for so long. They don't import people, and their population is now way older. Their younger population is unemployed, and they cannot pay for the old people on their whole social safety net. It's not going to work. They will never be the consumer economy. They cannot replace the United States. Africa is never going to replace the United States. So Europe has nowhere to sell its stuff without the United States. That's the ultimate trump card. To put a coin a phrase. That is the ultimate card that America has that nobody else has. So eventually they will have to come back. The very easy thing to do is simply enter into a negotiation, agree on a price, America buys Greenland, and everybody goes away. But Europe has gotten their feathers ruffled, and they're so stupid. As Trump said, they're the stupid people. They're the ones willing to essentially prostrate themselves in front of China just to do something as dumb as the Green New Scam, which does not work, is inefficient, will never, ever be able to satisfy their energy needs. All they're going to do is completely spike their prices and tube their growth. The number one precursor of economic growth and prosperity is cheap, when I say sustainable, meaning it's steady, cheap, steady power, energy. That is the number one precursor to a healthy, growing economy. And by tying yourselves to the Green New Scam, it'll never happen. And so Trump is essentially laying down the gauntlet. There is no more globalist world order. We're done. We're America first. We highly recommend you come along with us. If you don't come along with us, eventually we're not going to, the idea that, people are out there going, Trump might blow up NATO, as in, Guess what? We don't need NATO anymore. Let's be honest. NATO, especially the European Union, is quasi in bed with China. And the biggest thing that NATO was built to secure was, against the threat of the Soviet Union, which obviously collapsed along with all their puppet states and became the Russian Federation. Well, the Russian Federation was still a force to be reckoned with. They had the second biggest military in the world. They were a force to be reckoned with until the last 3 years. What Russia, other than their strategic nuclear forces, has shown themselves to be as a paper tiger. Russia, in all of its military might, could not even conquer Ukraine. Not even a third of it. They're sitting on about 20% of Ukraine. And they can't, for the last year, they have expended 150,000 soldiers, 24,000 armored vehicles, and they've advanced all of 5 miles? 5 miles in a year, roughly? It's crazy. What the Ukrainian army, with a bunch of money and tech from America and the European Union, has been able to do to the Russian military. So that is frankly a paper tiger. And if Russia were to invade, it is only our problem because of treaty obligations. The Russian Navy cannot threaten America. The one thing that Russia can threaten America with, obviously, is their strategic nuclear forces. But that is a zero-sum game. So Trump, I think, the European Union and NATO, other than the Secretary of General of NATO, who very much knows the cards that are being played and understands where the real leverage is, the elitist, stupid people from the European Union and the political leaders from NATO still think that this idea that NATO will break apart and that'll be chaos for the world. And then, who's going to stand against Russia? America can essentially militarily almost do it on her own. And we don't want to. That's why this is very simple. This is a very simple negotiation. Figure out a price. America buys Greenland. Everybody moves on. We then develop Greenland. We turn it into a strategic asset. We build the Golden Dome. We then secure the Arctic sea routes, the Arctic trade routes, shipping lanes from Russia and from China. And we make sure that the Arctic will never be theirs, and everybody moves on. It's a very simple thing. And we can get back to, let's make sure that Iran ends. We've already ended Venezuela. Let's turn our sights, make sure Cuba goes the way of some type of representative government, and let's go back to remaking the world in a much better framework. We'll see what happens. Trump's Davos speech is the opening salvo in the globalism is dead argument. We are done. His speech, back in when he was 45, in his first term, was a lot more, it was against climate change and all that. But it was less about the globalist world order is dead. Trump is essentially signifying that is over. It is now America first. We highly recommend you go with Britain first, France first, Germany first, and then where there is common interest, we can get together. But if everybody does that, then everybody will be better off. And if they actually do that, then they'll realize that this idea of the Green New Scam is a non-starter, because you cannot have cheap, sustainable energy on the Green New Scam. It doesn't work. So let me know what you think in the comments. Really appreciate everybody rolling up. Thanks so much for being here. Trump absolutely owned Davos, and I love it. Let me know what you think in the comments. Please smash that like button. If you like the content, share a Courageous Media with everybody that you know. Remember that God is good and he is sovereign. It'll all be good in the end. If it's not yet the end, man. If it's not yet good, it's not yet the end. Until I catch you next time.